Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got another disassembly and maintenance video for you, this time on this little guy here. This is a Reate Wave. So this is a knife that I literally just got in the mail as a loaner, and the gentleman who loaned it to me was more than happy to have me take a look at it, take it apart, and so I'm gonna. But the thing is, in this case, I actually need to, because this knife, he got it in some kind of a raffle or another, and it's got a couple of minor issues. For instance, see right here, the clip is pretty loose, so I feel like it's the screw has come unscrewed up in here, and I feel like the action can probably be a little bit smoother, although I'll say it's already pretty damn smooth. Blade centering is good as it is, so I'm going to try and take it apart, fix the clip issue, and put it back together while maintaining the goodness of that blade centering. So, here we go. This is a beautiful little interlude, as I've spent the afternoon being absolutely vexed by a sorting and optimization problem. So, this will be a nice way to work with the hands a little bit instead of the computer. Alrighty, so this has a free spinning pivot, which is not perfect, but it'll do. So I have to support the screw here from both sides. This knife is going to be really interesting to review because in terms of form factor and frankly in terms of action, it's very interestingly comparable with the Shirogorov Neon, which is another knife that I have and that I'm absolutely in love with. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to go in the long term here. Nope, that didn't work. So the pivot screw, for reference, was a Torx T9. And I bet that means this back screw here is going to be a T8. There we go, T8. Beautiful. Break that free. A little bit of Loctite there. Actually, doesn't look like it. Just really torqued down. But I believe with those two screws out, this guy and this guy, we will be able to pop this knife open. Now, I'm going to be a little bit careful here. I've already looked online to make sure that there are not IKBS or anything like that. So I don't need to worry about setting up an IKBS jail, but I still want to be careful because it is a lone knife, and there we go. We are popped apart. Beautiful. Alrighty, so immediately I see that there is a metal washer right up inside here, and that I need to make sure that that washer is installed again when I reassemble the knife. Beautiful. And on the inside, there's some skeletonization of the titanium underneath this this separate plate here, which I gotta say I respect. You can also see that the inlay here, there are two screw holes on the outside. The inlay here is screwed in from the inside, which is kind of nice, gotta say. So here we go, taking this further apart here. Gonna pop off the back spacer, and there is the offending clip screw. So, let's go on ahead and just start cleaning. I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol here. I'm trying the alcohol lately. It's been working well. Some people talked about Simple Green being bad news, and I know it's bad news for aluminum, so I'm going to see if I can do everything I need to do here with the booze instead. Come on now. Okay. Pop out the bearing and clean the blade. This looks like it's been lubed with some kind of a relatively light oil, maybe a nano oil, something along those lines. But the blade looks mostly clean here. So we got no big deal. Go ahead and pop the pivot the rest of the way out there. And drop the bearing out if we can. There we go. You can see here that we have an actual lock bar insert with an over travel stop, which is nice. Always a pleasure to see. I'm going to go ahead and pop out the back spacer pins there. You know, this guy doesn't want to come loose, this screw holder, and I'm not going to make it. No sense in fighting that little machine. Interestingly enough, they have two lock bar stabilizers on this guy. They've got this guy here, which prevents over travel, but they've also got the inlay here. And so I had just assumed that they were using the inlay to prevent the over travel, but they've got the two mechanisms there. So, you know, again, not that even one over travel stop is super, super critical, but at the same time, it's always nice to see. It's a sign of them giving a damn. And that is one thing that's been impressing me lately with the stuff I've handled from Reate. Whether it's the Steelcraft Bodega they did for Todd Begg, or this little guy, or some of the others, they appear really to give a damn. They seem to be trying not only to make a knife that will sell, but a knife of quality that will sell. And those two things are very different. For a long time, it was the case that a lot of your Chinese knives were, unfortunately, rather... well, a lot of corners were cut, shall we say. And so you would buy the knife and it would work fine for a couple of days, and then not so much. And, you know, who's really going to send it back to China for a warranty claim? Probably not many people, and they kind of banked on that. Come on now, here we go. Just making sure this is all cleaned out here. Beautiful. Now I'm going to wash the bearings real quick. Do that by putting a little bit of solvent down. And just running the bearings against the towel here. That's good. And on the other side, it's rolling nice. Beautiful. Almost look like ceramic bearings. Maybe I'm on some crack there, but sheesh, yeah, it sure does look like it. Who knows? Okay, so now we have to address this clip issue, because right now, unfortunately, when I went to put it in my pocket to carry it home from the post office, I realized there was absolutely no retention to the clip, and that's just no good. So I'm going to see what we can do about that. Okay, gotta find the right bit here. I am making my bet on Torx T6. Maybe T7 was the correct answer there. Come here, T7. T7. There we go. Okay. So our clip is popped loose now. And actually we can kind of see that the clip is a little bit on the sprung side, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of a bend here. Yeah, there's just not that much retention built into this clip here. So I'm going to use a little trick here that actually I learned from the Grimsmos on their YouTube channel, and they advocate it for the Norsemen, which is if you're trying to bend the clip back, mount the clip backwards on the frame to stabilize it, and use that to get a little bit more leverage. So I'm going to do that. Just there we go. The guy a little more bent. So that should provide us with some actual positive retention on this clip here, because that was dangerous. I really genuinely felt like it wasn't going to stay in my pocket as it was configured previously. Okay. One interesting thing here, they are able to use a single clip, single screw construction, because it fits nicely into this little pocket here, which keeps the clip from going around. There we go, that's retention. Hey, excellent. Okay, so that problem is solved. Everything else here looks good to go, so we can go ahead and just start with the reassembly here. I'll grab my Loctite. Oh boy. Shake this up, I'm getting to the end of this tube. Getting sad. And my little oiler here. Beautiful. I'm actually going to use a decent bit of Loctite here, given that the screw was previously loose. There we go. Hold the clip down, pop that screw in there. There we we go. And that's good and cranked down. Excellent. If anything, the retention might be a little high now, but it's better high than low, and that's always something you can pretty easily adjust. Gonna drop back in the backspacer there. There is not an additional backspacer pin, so we are good to go. I can tell that by the simple fact that there's not a hole for it on this other side here. It's always a good idea to make sure you don't have any parts left over at the end of your reconstructions here. All right, it's lubrication time, so let's start the lubing. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is run it a little drier than it was last time here. Just trying to kind of get everything. And now I'm going to run a little bit more moisture in here. And I'll use the groove here to distribute onto the bearings. Beautiful. I'm going to use a little bit of the lightweight nano oil here on the detent because this is a pretty light action. So now I'm going to find the pivot screw, which is right here, and pop it on through, lubing the pivot ahead of time just so that it kind of makes sure that it pops through. It is a shame about the free spinning pivot. That can very often be a little bit of trouble for you. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the bearing onto there. Ah, you little bugger. And now drop the blade onto the bearing and onto the pivot. Just spread everything around, make sure everything looks okay. Yeah, it's all set. Lock bar tension on this guy is fairly low, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on here and spin, spin, spin. Get everything good to go. Do a little bit of lubrication right there, not too much. Reinsert the backspacer, and it is in the correct orientation. Unlike when I put together, say, a Spyderco Rubicon. I am personally never going to live that one down to myself, at least. Not my finest hour. That is for damn sure. But all's well that ends well. There we go. So that's popped in. Now let's just put the screws back in there. So we're going to switch back to the Torx T8 for this. Actually, I'm going to do the pivot screw first here, just to make sure everything stays in position. And for that, I'm going to want my T9. Ah, little bugger. I'm going to go ahead and use the oiler on this. There we go. I'm being very careful not to use too much Loctite given the free spinning pivot. Of course, it can always be warmed back up with a hairdryer, but I'd rather not have to fight it, you know? And frankly, I'd rather my wonderful viewer loaned it to me. Thank you, Mike. Will be able to do what he needs to do as well. Okay. And so I need to crank the other side down with this guy. It's the part where I grow another hand or two. There we go. We tighten, tighten, tighten. There we go. Now, a little bit more of the Loctite back here. And drop in the screw. Ah, of course. For This I need my T8. Oh. Tighten this guy down over here. Give this guy a good cranking. There we go. And now let's see where the action is at. Oh my God, that's smooth. There is a little bit of side-to-side play, so that means we can re-tighten the pivot a little bit more. Oh, Reate is doing some incredible things with the smoothness lately. Interestingly, the pivot is all the way cranked down here, or at least to the extent that I really feel comfortable doing it. Make sure. Yeah, and there is still a little tiny bit of side-to-side blade play. That's probably just a little tolerances issue. Everything else is the spec, but that is something you got to keep in mind here. And I'm okay with it because it had a little tiny bit of side-to-side blade play when I got it in the box, so that's probably just a characteristic of this particular Reate Wave. But with that, actually, we are all set, and the Reate Wave is now reassembled and ready to go. Let's double check the centering. Centering is good. Action. Oh yeah. That's really nice, actually. That's some excellent action they got going on there. And let's check the clip. There is none of that rattling about there. If anything, like I said, maybe the retention's a bit on the high side right now. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my pocket there. There we go. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. Beautiful. So we've got a Reate Wave. Beautiful, and now I can carry it and do a review. And life is good. All is well in the universe, and hopefully I'll be able to figure out that problem now that I gave my mind some time to work on a knife. Hope this has been interesting to you. This is going to be an interesting knife to review, so keep an eye out for it. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.